After Logan Lucky, this is the second movie I've seen in a row that stars Channing Tatum and heavily uses a character that has a love for Take Me Home, Country Roads by John Denver. What, are the rights for that song dead cheap or something? Country Road. No, let's try and get at least one video where I don't get content ID'd within an inch of my life. Kingsman 2 The Golden Circle follows on from Kingsman the Secret Service, and this time, following an attack on the Kingsman HQ, they activate the Doomsday Protocol, which leads them to their American counterparts, the Statesmen. Together they must act quickly to bring down the Golden Circle, a drugs cartel holding the world to ransom with their narcotics. And right from the very beginning you can tell exactly what kind of movie you're in for, as it kicks off with a breathless action sequence that barrels through the streets of London as returning hero Eggsy fights off a villain in the back of a black cab. And of course that black cab is an undercover Kingsman vehicle and not a normal taxi, because a taxi driver will kick you out for anything, let alone giving a bad guy a doing. Like, f***'s sake mate, why at least take the bus if you're going to take a supervillain a square go? Much like the characters, style is very important to this movie. If you think back to the church scene in the first Kingsman, that hyperkinetic CG assisted style of the camera moving in and out and following punches and things like that, that's exactly what we get in any action sequence in this, but even more frenetic. It definitely adds dynamism to the action, but especially when it's the first thing that you see, it can occasionally be a bit jarring and just toes the line of being hard to follow. However, to give writer-director Matthew Vaughn his dues, it does bring a sense of excitement to the action, and there were more than a few shots where I was like, whoa, how did they do that? Style isn't just contained to how the camera moves. Of course, all the characters dress very stylishly and look awesome. I mean, Pedro Pascal's Glastonbury scene has him wearing one of the coolest jackets I've ever seen in my life, but also in the production design, because replacing Samuel L. Jackson in the villain role is Julianne Moore's Poppy, and the little quirk that they've given her to be memorable is that she's obsessed with 1950s Americana, so her lair is like a 50s theme park nestled inside a jungle, complete with hot dog stand, cinema, burger joint, robotic dogs, and even the classic one-armed henchman. And then of course there's the Statesman. Well, the Kingsmen use Savile Row tailors as their front for their spy agency. Their American cousins are in the much more enviable position of using a Kentucky bourbon distillery as their facade. Smart call, lads. They've even brought out a promotional bottle of Statesman Old Forester, which I want so bloody badly, but unfortunately I have zero clout, which means I'll never get my hands on it and I'm going to have to stick to the cheap stuff. Speaking of which, to that bottle of Statesman I'll never get to taste.
Hello darkness, my old friend.
Now, the Statesman HQ is actually shaped like a bottle of bourbon, and practically every scene that they're in is like a bourbon ad come to life. But with all that potential, I was really hoping for a bit more world building, because unfortunately Kingsman 2 does that thing that most sequels do, which is make everything bigger, not necessarily better. With so many new characters, nobody really gets a chance to do anything. Apart from Taron Egerton, Mark Strong and Colin Firth, practically everyone else was reduced to nothing more than a glorified cameo. Vinnie Jones was even cast in a role that got cut entirely. Now don't get me wrong, everyone is fantastic in the role. There's something subversively enjoyable, if not that believable, about Julianne Moore as a drugs kingpin. Queenpin? Jeff Bridges continues to be the coolest man to ever exist as head of the Statesman Champagne. Pedro Pascal shines as the brash but unbelievably skilled Agent Whiskey, getting most of the coolest action moments with his, well, what can only be described as a lightsaber lasso. But I was disappointed to find out that apart from Agent Whiskey, none of the new Statesmen are in it for more than a few minutes and get barely any character development. Jeff Bridges' entire story arc is that he moves from a desk to a chair. Even Channing Tatum, who's heavily featured in the advertising, literally gets less screen time than Elton John. Yes, Elton John. Not only that, but one of the best characters from the first are written out in an extremely disappointing and apathetic way. As a direct result of this expanded scope, unlike in the first Kingsman where story and action were in good balance, in the Golden Circle, story very much plays second fiddle to action and is really only used for getting characters from location A to location B. The action is fun, yes, and very comic booky in a good way, but these moments are padded out with wall-to-wall exposition that really slows the pace of the movie. A huge example of this, and something that I'm sure you'll have seen some controversy about already, is a scene where, for reasons that are genuinely not important, Agents Whiskey and Galahad must compete over who can place a tracker on a mark played by Poppy Delevingne. but the catch is, the tracker must be placed inside our body on the tip of a finger. And let's just say, it ain't going up the nose hole. I'm saying it's going in the fairy cave, in the stench trench, in the There's no logical reason given whatsoever why it has to go up her golden circle and not just, you know, in the mouth. But that is not going to stop Eggsy doing his best to wear her like a ventriloquist doll. Did I really just say that? Alright, there's absolutely no chance of this video being considered advertiser friendly now, so let's just go the whole hog.
Country roads, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia.
It's the same fatal flaw that the first Kingsman suffered from. It's an otherwise fun and light-hearted movie that's almost completely derailed by one badly judged gag. If you've seen the first Kingsman, you'll know the joke I'm talking about, and this scene feels like a direct response to the reaction towards that. The ante is upped in every aspect, just like it is with everything else in the film. I mean, there's even a shot of, well, let's just say I'm glad this is not in 3D. But this time, it's more than just a throwaway gag. It has consequences, it has an impact on the story, but it still feels vulgar and needless. It comes across like it was written by a Unilad intern or Jay from the Inbetweeners, and let's face it, the entire sequence could be cut and it would be easy enough to find a location another way, and it would help with a bloated nearly 2.5 hour runtime. And maybe I was expecting more than I should have, because this is Matthew Vaughn's first sequel as a writer or director, but it does suffer heavily from sequelitis. Hopefully this is something they can remedy as the franchise continues, because let's face it, this is going to make enough money that it gets a sequel no problem. And speaking of which, here's something that I think could be pretty cool for a future installment. Mark Strong's Merlin has an important subplot in Kingsman 2, and maybe I'm biased, but following this, the Kingsmen and Odd Statesman could travel up to Scotland, where they meet the Scottish equivalent called the, wait for it, Klansmen. Maybe they're a part of Merlin's family, or Merlin is an ex-member or something, or they're an offshoot of the Kingsmen, but generations ago they had a dispute over loyalty to the monarchy. You could have actors like Richard Madden, Ewan McGregor, Peter Mullen, Tommy Flanagan, Karen Gillan, James McAvoy. There could be plenty of jokes about the Kingsmen and their fancy Savile Row suits versus the Klansmen and their formal kilts and Highland dress, or, you know, their preference for Scottish whiskey versus the Statesman's American bourbon. Maybe a high-ranking member of the Klansmen is a defector obsessed with Scottish independence, and he's using his access to intelligence to sabotage politics or to hatch an assassination plot at a meeting of the Queen and the President involving both the Kingsmen and the Statesman. I know that's never going to happen, but hey, Matthew Vaughn, my diary's wide open, man. Hit me up. Actually, I would be genuinely interested to hear your thoughts on that idea and hear some of your own for future installments. Let me know in the comments below. But anyway, I digress. If you liked Kingsman the Secret Service, you're going to like the Golden Circle, but you might be a little bit disappointed. The kitsch Moore-era Bond vibe is still there, and there's a great The Spy Who Loved Me reference to hammer that point home, but it doesn't have anything as memorable as that church scene in the first, and bringing back Colin Firth has the unfortunate side effect of immediately lessening the stakes, because you think to yourself, well, if they get shot, they can just bring them back, right? Just about every character feels underused, which is odd when it simultaneously feels like the runtime is about half an hour too long. If they cut some of the exposition, and to be honest, the entire Glastonbury scene, it would have felt like a much leaner, stronger film. But it's still a hell of a lot of fun overall, and I enjoyed revisiting these characters and discovering new ones. I'm giving Kingsman 2 the Golden Circle 3 popcorns. It just misses out on 4. Thanks very much for watching my review of Kingsman 2. If you liked it, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, and please consider subscribing if you're new. You can click the boxes below to see some of my latest videos, and if you and your friend are thinking of seeing Kingsman 2, maybe share this video with them, see what your thoughts are. Again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.